position and be able to stand up here and talk in front of you guys. Sorry to the people in the bathroom, but I'll do my best to work your way. All right. So I thought about a number of things I could do tonight, and it settled on maybe a few stories that I could share that kind of say a little bit about who Brian is and what he's been like as a friend for me. So I kept coming back to the word soulmate, and I don't know if that's appropriate for a best man and his groom, but that's maybe what we are, and in a few different ways. So first, maybe as dessert soulmates, and I'll go into that in a second. Also as adventure soulmates, and that's probably the biggest one that's kept us so close. And finally, as scare the crap out of your other friends' soulmates, and I'll share some stuff on that as well. So, on desserts, prior to meeting Brian, I thought I had maybe like a minor superpower. I can eat more sweets than just about anyone I know. And those of you that know me know that, but for the rest of you, this may be news. So, ice cream has been probably at the top of that list, maybe donuts slightly ahead. And in Brian, I found my equal for the first time ever. So I found somebody that could eat as much ice cream as me, if not more. So a wild and crazy Friday night for us in high school was a half gallon of buttered pecan, and that's it. That's all we needed. That's my cheering section over here. This is gonna be fun. So the thing that's maybe separates Brian, you know, I love my desserts, and my wife can attest to the fact that I don't like to share them with anyone. And it's not about not wanting to share; it's about being worried about getting enough. And with Brian, I found somebody that could go maybe a full half gallon in with me. Sometimes we have our own half gallon. And Brian's the type of guy that'll share whatever he has with you. Maybe if I wanted, you know, 60-40 of that half gallon, he'd give it to me. And he's the type of, he's that way with everyone, not just his good friends. So, on adventure, I'm going to try to keep this quick. I was practicing on the way over here, and these stories rambled for a long way, so we'll make this quick. But maybe, I want to say it's either senior year of high school or freshman year of college, we took a trip to Yosemite. So a carload of us headed up there for some winter camping. We went right after Christmas. We had in our mind the perfect Yosemite winter wonderland. So snow everywhere, you know, very picturesque. We were going to have this great time. Well, we arrived to just a downpour. We arrived in the dark. We set up our tent, so we were tent camping, which was part of the adventure. And make a long story short, wake up in the morning after setting up our tent to rain, and raining all night. And I'm feeling pretty good, actually. I'm fairly warm. I look down at my sleeping bag. My sleeping bag is mostly dry. I look at my backpack, and my backpack was waterproof, nothing wet there. And then I look over at Brian. Brian slept on, and this was hard to tell when we were setting up the tent in the dark, but he slept on the low side of the tent. So the water flowed to Brian. Brian had a down sleeping bag, and for those of you that have ever washed a down comforter, you know how down responds to water. It soaks it up. He had a cloth backpack with all his dry clothes in it. Everything he had was literally wet, including his socks that he had on in his sleeping bag. So yeah, maybe not prepared. So we wake up to this, and the normal person might call it a trip at that point. It was Brian's car. It would have been very easy for him to say, you know what, guys, we tried, and this is the worst trip ever. Let's just call it quits. That's not at all what happened. For the people that were on that trip, they know that we made a great trip out of it. We ended up getting our clothes dry in the tent cabin, doing some really cool things, and that trip ended up being something that group of friends took every year for, what, 5, 6 years or so? Still doing it. 13 years it's still going. So that's a credit to Brian. A lot of other people would have reacted very differently in that situation, but Brian was in it for the adventure. He didn't want to call it quits just because everything he owned was dry, or wet, I should say. He wanted to keep it going and see where that trip was going to lead, and it led to some really good things. So. This one's for you, Miles. Thanks. On scaring the crap out of your friends. So, in high school, one of the fun things that my group would do, and I don't know what this says about us, but we, as a group of guys, this is no girls, would dress up in our finest, something equivalent to this, fancy shoes, and go out to a fancy restaurant. So to a bunch of high school guys in California, a fancy restaurant meant Marie Callender's, of course. For those of you here in Colorado, think Cracker Barrel would be maybe a decent comparison. So we go out for one of those dinners. We're bored afterwards. We don't want to go home. It's maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock. So we head to the local parking lot. This is in Medina Plaza, for those of you who know San Luis Obispo, and decide to try to waste some time. So Brian and I come up with this fun game of chase. Again, I don't know what this says about Brian and I or our group, but we chased each other around for a little while, and we're having fun. At least Brian and I were. We did that for a little while, and everybody kind of started to head back to the car. At which point, I can't remember what happened, but something spurred us to take off. And the thought was, well, if we run, they'll chase after us, and then we'll get to continue this game for another hour or two. So we ran, and you can see Brian and I are tall, lanky, definitely like to run. So we ran and ran and ran and ran. We never said anything, we just took off. I don't know how long it was. I think the people here that were waiting for us would probably say it was hours, but it was really probably maybe 20, 30 minutes. We eventually realized that nobody's chasing us. We come back and approach the van. And those of you in the band, you want to just stand up so we can recognize.
Yeah, this is not how it happened, Jonas, by the way. There's mine too. Yeah, Mike was driving.
So we approach the van, window rolls down, doors are locked, and we're informed that we're going to have to pay if we want to ride home.
This isn't what happened.
Home was about 11, 12 miles away. So it was a little ways, and by this point it was probably 12:30 at night. And again, being the high school guys, having just gone to our fancy dinner, we didn't have money to pay them off for the ride home, and we thought that was kind of lame that they were doing that. So we called their bluff, and they drove off. And Brian and I were stuck in San Luis Obispo prior to cell phones at probably 12:30 at night. So we did what any adventure-seeking friends would do. We hitchhiked home at 12:30 at night in our fancy clothes. And what our friends didn't realize is by doing that, they pushed us probably closer together than we might have ever, gone on our own. And we had probably one of the best nights of our friendship that night, just bonding over our walk home. We eventually, probably halfway, did find a very scary pickup truck driving.
He was a gravedigger.
Gravedigger, who gave us a ride the rest of the way. But anyway, that's, again, another story that just illustrates what Brian brings out in me, which is kind of that adventurous, fun, spontaneous side. And we, throughout our friendship, have had nights like that more often than not. And that's a real credit to Brian. So rarely do you find somebody that's laid back enough to deal with a wet sleeping bag and wet clothes, that's spontaneous enough to run off through a parking lot in San Luis Obispo and get left by your friends, and who can eat his weight in ice cream. And I think that's the big point here. So another thing about Brian, he doesn't make decisions lightly. So he may be spontaneous when it comes to little things, but when it's the big things, he takes it very seriously. I remember him talking about becoming an optometrist, and he went and researched it. He went and talked to optometrists. I mean, he went the full mile to make sure that he was making the right decision. And when he called me and said that he had met a girl, I knew that it wasn't just, maybe some girl that I might hear about once and not again. I knew that if he was calling and telling me about it, and if he was saying that she was special and that this was serious, that it really was, because he doesn't do stuff like that lightly. So I'm a parent, I have 3 kids now, and when Deanna entered the picture, it was probably just right around the time we had our first, and I remember the first time she met my son Zane, who's our oldest, he's 5 now. And when you become a parent, you use your kids as kind of your judge of character. So when you meet new people, you run it by your kids and see what they think, and that becomes kind of a de facto barometer of what type of person they are. And my son Zane, and to this day, he doesn't like Deanna, he loves Deanna. And it was instant, it was amazing, it was really fun to see. And so he knew right away. I knew later that night when we launched into our first song, Guitar Hero, together. And so Deanna is extremely special. you know, one thing, Brian and I may be adventure soulmates, and we may be dessert soulmates, and maybe scaring the crap out of our friends' soulmates, but we're obviously not soulmates. And what Brian found in Deanna is that true soulmate. So there's a lot of other adventures in life other than traveling and doing these things, and he has that now, and I'm really excited, you know. One of the things I wanted to mention, you know, in Deanna, he's found somebody that's equally comfortable drinking beer at some strange brewery and babysitting her niece. Those are two very disparate things. He's found somebody that's equally comfortable going to a new fancy restaurant, trying some new cuisine, and trying one of Brian's Rick Bayless recipes, which may be as adventurous. And most important, and this is important, he found somebody that wanted to settle in Colorado. So that's just huge to me, because I'm here for those of you who don't know. I was going to do a toast, but you know what? I'm going to do one more thing. I didn't say how we met, so, and before I do that, I want to tell something kind of neat about us. This is the first time we're telling the public, but Brian and I last year formed a rap duo. I don't know, maybe a couple of you know this. Normally, we only perform together, and we've been working on a lot of stuff. We should have an album out next year, but in the meantime, since he's a little preoccupied tonight, I thought I would tell you how we met in the form of a rap song. Is anybody, is that good? So I have DJ Rex on the 1s and 2s. He's going to give me a beat.
Yeah, Jonas.
Oh my God.
Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
Sorry, that's all green. All right, you have something else? No, we can save it later. All right. This'll work. Maybe Squid fans? Now, here's a little story I got to tell about two adventuring bros you know so well. It started way back in history with my man BCA and me, HC. Met had a little flag named geometry. Me, my compass, and Pythagorean theory. Laying down proofs, ignoring class goof. Mr. Daniels gets annoyed and I stare at the roof. One lonely MC I be. All by myself without nobody. Turned to get a commotion next to where I sat. The laughs were loud, my screw was flat. Looking for a bro, I ran into a bride. His name was BCA. I said howdy, he said hi. It's not over. He told a little story that I can still recall about this accordion player, a guy named Weird Al. The conversation flowed and I had to hear more. 1 week later, a mixtape I was scored. He said, what's your fave? I said, I think I'm a clone now. Music was our thing, soon Death wrote all I could sing. Quick on the tape, wittier than I. We had more in common than his class on pie. Well, his name is BCA, he's got a license to wed. I think you know what time it is, it's time to get ill. Now what do we have here? Husband and wife couldn't be happier, their new married life. Still best of friends, very near kin. You think the story's over, but it's ready to begin. It's not over. Alright, everybody get your drinks. Now, I got the mic and you got a drink. Please raise your glass and ready for a ding. It'll be